Welcome everyone and thank you for attending our webinar. I'm Maria Camila Sepulveda, Marketing Manager at Pangea Group, and I'll be hosting today's webinar, Lean Manufacturing and Kanban Planning in Microsoft Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management. Joining us today is Carolina Anzola, Esteban Torres, and Diego Maldonado. The webinar will consist in two parts. First, the team will briefly explain some theoretical concepts that we'll need in order to be on the same page with you guys. And then they'll move on to show how to apply these concepts in Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management. In the right upper corner, you guys will find a chat icon. You can leave any questions you guys may have there. We will be answering on inbox. Without further ado, Carolina will take it from here.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Carolina Anzola. I'm a senior consultant from Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance at the Pangea Group.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Esteban Torres, junior consultant specialized in asset management and in manufacturing in Pangea Group.
Good morning. I am Diego Maldonado, trade and logistics consultant at Pangea Group. Then we will move into our agenda for today. Well, the agenda we have prepared starts with an introduction to Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management, and then we will move into the lean manufacturing concepts and features of the system. We will see some supporting modules to control the manufacturing processes, and then we will see a couple of scenarios for command creation and processing in the platform. Then let's dive into it. Dynamics 365 enables businesses to get into the digital transformations and prepare them to face challenges and leverage tools from this transformation, such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data. Nowadays, organizational processes become more complex and demand flexibility and adaptable systems to support their operations. Microsoft solution makes it easier to manage products and services from conception to marketplace and appropriately administer the three flows of a supply chain, namely materials, financials, and information flow. It also helps organizations to streamline their end-to-end processes, from vendor management, including vendor collaboration, to inventory and production control, leveraging available capabilities on discrete, process, and lean manufacturing, supporting warehouse transactions, and the final delivery to the customers. Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management also supports companies to maximize operational efficiency, ensuring quality and improving the bottom line. It allows to track all the transactions across the supply chain and delivers reports that generate KPIs to control your business operations. It also has a built-in supply chain analytics that takes advantage of the Power BI capabilities and enables data visualization for decision making. After this quick introduction to Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management, I will let you with my colleague Esteban, who is going to drive you to the main lean manufacturing analysis of the system.
Thank you very much, Diego. Well, first we're going to take a quick look at lean manufacturing at a theoretical level, and then we will pass down to explain how it is applying Dynamics 365 supply chain management. First of all, lean manufacturing is a methodology that focuses on minimizing waste within manufacturing systems while simultaneously maximizing productivity with the intent of maximizing value while reducing waste. Value is defined as the capability to provide to a customer at the right time at an appropriate price and described in each case by the specific customer that you're trying to satisfy. And is the critical starting point for lean thinking and can only be defined by the end customer. And waste is defined as anything that customers do not believe adds value and are not willing to pay for. Now, the lean methodology works within 5 lean principles. The first one is customer value. The customer defines the value of the product in a lean supply chain by the value-adding activities that transform the product closer to what the customer wants. In an activity that doesn't add value, it's a waste. When identifying the value, you specify what creates value from the customer perspective, because he is the one that at the end of the chain will be paying for your product or your service. Next one is the value stream. The value stream is a sequence of processes from raw material to the final customer or from product concept to market launch. Identify the value stream is very important for the lean thinking. Next one is flow, which are the combinations born from linking activities and processes, which we'll look at in a second. And it will be for your best interest to always strive for have the most efficient combinations of activities and process while minimizing waste. The pull system is a system that responds to the customer's demand, which drives the supply chain. If you look at the supply chain from a downstream to upstream activities, the upstream supplier produces nothing until the downstream customer signals a need. This need could be a sales order or a production order, depending on what is the lean focus. Lastly is the continuous improvement. The lean works as a journey of continuous improvement. The goal is to produce exactly what the customer wants, when the customer wants it, and in an economical manner. For all the lean thinking, continuous improvement, also called perfection, is an aspiration because it works under the philosophy that anything and everything can be improved. Next one, we will look at Kanban. As you may know, the word Kanban means visible record in Japanese. Kanban is a method of controlling production and internal supply. This record will give information about what, how, and when something must be produced. The Kanban can be physical, like the one we see in the picture, which is the original Kanban system by Toyota, and or a digital one, that is the one we'll be looking at in Dynamics. So in the picture here, we can see the basic process of a Kanban. First one, it will begin in the Kanban board where all the Kanbans are stored or created. State Kanban will be assigned to a part producing process in which it will tell to the worker or the production team what will need to be produced, when, and with which specifications. Then the Kanban and the product will go to the, in this case, it's called a supermarket. It will be a warehousing to production where the Kanban is, where the production is performed according to what the Kanban says. After finishing said production or said process, the product with the attached Kanban card will come here, and the Kanban card will go back to the Kanban board, and the finished product will go to the fast consuming process, or could be a warehouse for distribution or a sales point. It all depends on how your company will work with the production of the items. Now we're gonna give a little more context about the system. First one, I would like to explain to you why use lean manufacturing Dynamics 365 supply chain management. First reason is that it gives you transparency through the organization and processes, because all the information is available for the users. So he may know everything about certain processes, when they will take place, who has assigned certain task, which generated say Kanban, how will that Kanban be fulfilled. Control is about overall transportation and manufacturing processes. It's because Dynamics 365 not only gives you access to the information, but also the chance to control it, to change it according to what is the most efficient way for your company to do it. Not everything has to be set in stone. It's a system very flexible that gives you complete control over all the process. Next one is the response from customer demand. This works along with the pull principle that we already talked about, in which it gives you a fast and complete response of customer demands in order to perform a full system in the most efficient way possible. Lastly is the full integration with other ERP models that my colleagues will show you in a demo soon. That it will show you that the lean manufacturing parts of the system also integrate with other parts like master planning, inventory type modules. So it gives you a more complete implementation if you want to that the lean manufacturing part of your company works along and implemented with other modules and other parts of that company. Now, the lean manufacturing architecture in Dynamics 365 supply chain management consists of production flows, activities, and Kanban rules. These structures are fully integrated with supply chain management processes. You can use lean manufacturing on mixed mode manufacturing environment that combines various supplies, production, and sourcing strategies. Sales strategies include production orders, batch orders, or for process industries, purchase orders, and transfer orders. So we will look each one of them separately. First one, they are production flows. They are basically the flow of the materials and products through the work cells and location of a specific production or supply scenario. Production flows can also be described as a sequence or small network of processes or transfer activities. As said before, the production flows links all the activities and processes into the most efficient combinations to maximize the value-added content while minimizing waste and eliminating the waiting time of work in progress between processes. Next one is the activities. The activities describe that the actions performed during the production process on its more basic level. As we can see, the picture attached, it shows 3 activities connected. The first one is an activity of transfer, where it basically tells that a finished product, or in this case, a raw material, will be transferred from a warehouse or location where it's stored to another warehouse where the production will take place, or a manufacturing process, which in this case will be the assembly of a new part. And then the activity that will take place is a quality control one. So these 3 parts are activities on itself, and they together form a production flow, which say by the principles told previously, that what you must strive is that these activities get combined in the most efficient manner and in the more economical manner. Common rules in supply chain management are important to all the products because they define the activities that a Kanban goes through. Kanban rules are tied to production flows as the foundation that describes the activities of a Kanban. Kanban rules can make to be support a variety of make to stock or make to order scenarios. According to a Kanban rule, a Kanban can be classified by two things. The first one is the replenishment strategy, which we can see here is fixed, schedule, and event, and we will look them in a minute. And according to the Kanban type or the activity that the Kanban is describing. According to the Kanban rule, a Kanban can be a Kanban of manufacturing, which describes a process, for example, the process of assembly that we looked at in the last image. And then a Kanban of withdrawal, which describes a process of transporter or transfer that is also called here. And we will look now at the replenishment strategies, each one. Now, the fixed quantity Kanban rule relates to a fixed number of handling units, meaning that the number of activities Kanban are constant. Whenever the product of a Kanban are consumed, for example, a handling unit is emptied, a new Kanban of the same type is created. We can see it here in this graphic, where your company, let's say, handles a very specific number of one item and has to have that exact number in stock for security purposes, for example. Then comes an item consumption. It could be like the finished product was sold, or raw material was needed for production. The point is that the stock of that item is depleted. Next, the fixed Kanban is activated, and it generates an activity of replenishment to replenish the item stock to the number that it should be. These replenishment activities could be like purchasing the part, producing this part. It all depends on which item is receiving this fixed Kanban rule. Next one is scheduled Kanbans. This is one of the parts that integrate with other modules, in this case with master planning. because master planning creates and schedules Kanbans automatically for planned Kanban orders to cover the requirements when the firm horizon of the production forward says that it needs to. Scheduled Kanbans can also be manually created, but the most efficient way and the most recommended way for best practices is that the scheduled Kanbans are created automatically according to a schedule that is set up in the master planning according to the needs of demand, of the forecast. It all depends on how the production department plans what is it going to do. For example, in the graphic that we are seeing right now, it describes the scheduling, a basic scheduling of a production that needs to be completed in a month. So we can see this light blue, it represents what is already completed, and this dark blue represents what is already remaining, and from which date to which date it should be completed. Lastly, we can see here the event Kanbans, which are the only created out of the related demand. So event Kanbans belong to a make-to-order category. Event Kanbans trigger and create related issues with certain events, like the creation of sales lines, the estimation of production orders, the creation of Kanbans that are supplied through event Kanban rules, which means that the interaction of a Kanban could be on itself a Kanban rules that creates another Kanban. And lastly, the room pegging event processing, where inventory hits a minimum quantity. Now, Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management also offers the possibility of dashboards. Dashboards are a more physical way to handle certain information in order to make it more easy to understand and more dynamic and easier to control, to edit, to change. In the most basic part, Dynamics 365 offers 3 schedule boards for Kanban. The first one is the Kanban schedule board that is designed to be used as a Heishunka board to level production, load on a cell. The board can also be used to schedule without capacity consideration. As we can see up here, it basically tells you that in a specific work cell from a certain date, it will show you the activities that will take place, the production that will take place on said day and on a specific day. Next one are the Kanban board for process jobs, which is the board where manufacturing Kanbans are processed on the shop floor. And the Kanban transfer board, which works exactly like that, but for Kanbans or the transfer type, while the Kanban board for process jobs works for Kanban on the manufacturing side. Now, with this done, I will let you with my colleague Diego, who will show you how to easily manage inventory to support manufacturing operations. Go on, Diego.
Thank you, Esteban. So now, before we move into the platform and see the demo, I will give you a short view of the related functionalities that Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management provides to support the manufacturing processes. First, we have the Product Information Management module, where you can create items that will be the reference across the system. You can select item type, either product or service, and configure specific dimensions, such as tracking dimensions to record and track batch numbers or serial numbers. Storage dimensions for specifying the level at which you will physically control your inventory, including, for instance, site, warehouse, and locations. At the product level, you can also configure the bill of materials, where you define the relationships between the finished products and their components. On top of that, the inventory management module supports all the inventory operations, going from inbound to the inventory transactions you carry out inside your warehouse to move items from one location to another, and to the outbound operations for picking and packing the items to fulfill the customer's sales orders. All this, along with the warehouse management module and the capabilities of the warehousing app, support all the operations involved in the manufacturing processes. This first part of the demo is based on a mixed manufacturing system that combines both pull or Kanban make to order and push standard production by taking advantage of the master planning module. So a quick view of the master planning module in Dynamics 365 supply chain management. It comprises basically 3 areas. First one corresponds to the input, where the system gathers all placed orders related to sales orders, purchase, production, or transfer orders. Then when the master planning runs, system also takes information from the products table, also the bill of materials, components, and so on, item coverage settings, and on-hand inventory, as well as forecast, demand forecast if they are available. As a result, master planning generates a series of plan orders to supply end products that meet the demand. So possible outcomes from the master planning are planned purchase order, planned transfer orders, planned production orders, and planned Kanbans, which are the ones we will focus on. Well, the scenario that I am going to present in this part of the demo corresponds to a Kanban type manufacturing. In this case, we are going to assemble a product, and the replenishment strategy is going to be scheduled. So we will see the finished product with its 3 components. We will have a sales order with 10 units of the finished product. Then we will run master planning and we'll get a planned Kanban. Once we get the planned Kanban, we are going to firm this planned order, and we will get a manufacturing Kanban per se. Then we will move into the Kanban scheduling board in order to schedule the Kanban that we just created, assigning the Kanban work cell as well as a date to be processed. Then we will move into the other Kanban board for process jobs, where we can start actually processing the finished product, and we will get the components already stored at the Kanban supermarket location, which is the input location of the work cell, where the where the assembly is going to be performed. Finally, we will move the finished product already assembled to the Kanban out location, which is the location, the outbound location for the work cell. After that, the item will be ready for next staging or for load the truck and shipping straight to customer. So let's move into the platform. Well, first of all, I want to show to you the products, the released products, which contains all the list of products that are created in the system. We are going to focus in this first one, which is our finished product, the Kit Global. First thing I want to show to you is the bill of materials versions. So in here, what we have is the bill of material identification. We have some other information, and important thing here is the validity, which is a period of time for which the bill of material is going to be valid. And if you need to make changes on the design or on the components, then you will be able to handle that with with the dates setting here. On the lower panel, you will have the components that are required to assemble this finished product. So you will have the item number, description, quantity required, and important also the item type. In this case, these 3 components are individual items, but you could also have another sub-product or sub-assembly, which with its own bill of material. And in the end, all the structure would be a next level of the main bill of materials for the end product. If we go back to the main page of the item, we will move into the plan tab and check the net requirements. In the net requirements, please focus on the lower panel. We have a sales order requiring 10 units. We don't have any inventory on hand, so the idea is to start manufacturing or assembling those units in order to meet this sales order. So what I'm going to do here is to run master planning. You can run master planning from here for this particular product or from the master planning workspace. As you can see, a planned Kanban has been generated for 10 units just to meet the requirement from the sales order. I will enter the planned Kanban in order to firm this plan order. Well, in here, I firm the planned Kanban. And now I can move into the Kanban schedule board. So what do we have in the Kanban schedule board? As you can see here, it works as a view for every work cell. Remember that a work cell is a group of resources. It can be machines, workers, tools, in order to perform a job. So in this case, we are we are reviewing our work cell for assembling the finished product. So you have in here a time horizon where you can see all the Kanban jobs scheduled. And there is an option here to check the unplanned jobs. I will go in there, and we can see that we have two Kanbans that were created from the firming order I just did. Both of them were created for 5 units to adapt 10 units that are the requirement from the sales order. And they were created in this manner because my Kanban rules state that a maximum of 5 units per Kanban car is allowed. So that's why 2 Kanbans were created. Then I'm going to schedule the first one for today, let's say. And the next one I will schedule for tomorrow. So you can see that now the Kanbans are scheduled right here. And next thing I will do is to move into the Kanban board for process jobs in order to actually process the 2 Kanbans that were just created. So what do we have in here? We have, again, a view for the work cell. We have a list of Kanbans that were already completed. You can see in here in the job status. And here, the last 2 lines correspond to the Kanbans we just scheduled. They are in status planned. So I will select the first one. And in the lower panel, you can see the picking list, which is showing the items that are required to get the finished product, the quantity required, and the supply status. In here, it is important to mention that I already have these items in the input location of my work cell. We could have been also configure the system so that once the Kanban, the assembly or manufacturing Kanban is created, it generates also a withdrawal Kanban as well to take those items from their own locations in the warehouse and put them in the input location of the work cell. In this case, they were already placed there. So we are now ready to start the processing of the Kanban. So you can see that the status has changed to in progress. And it is important to mention here that you can also use a barcode scanner or a handheld with the warehousing app running in it to change the stages of the Kanban. You can also print the Kanban card, which I'm going to show you in here on the screen. You can easily connect a printer in your shop floor and get the physical document printed as well. So as I was mentioning before, there is a barcode which can be scanned by any device you have available in your shop floor. There is the description of the finished product and the quantity you need, the end location where you need to put the items away once they are ready, and you can also include some visual instructions of how to perform the job. I will move back then into my board and I will complete the task, the Kanban. So I click on complete and it changes to status completed and disappear from the board. To conclude the demo, I will go back to my item view. So let me close these two windows in order it to get refreshed correctly, and then again to net requirements. And as you can see, now we have 5 units in on-hand inventory that comes from the Kanban we just processed. There is another Kanban for 5 units that is pending to be processed. And finally, the sales order that it is going to be fulfilled with the 10 units that we manufactured. So with this, I finish this part of the demo and will let you with my colleague Carolina, who is going to drive you through the other type of Kanbans and Kanban replenishment strategies.
Thank you, Diego. Today, I'm in charge of showing you the Kanban planning in D365 supply chain management. So as Esteban mentioned earlier, the Kanban feature is implemented as a framework to plan, track, and process manufacturing and replenishment based on pull signals. I'm going to show you 2 versions of Kanbans. So let's start with the first one. I will generate the WITHDRAWAL Kanban from a production order to replenish the raw materials defined on the BOM setup. So you don't have to decide between lean and standard production orders. So that means that you can mix and match both types that make sense for your finished item. Dynamics 365 is very flexible in terms of process. The scenario today is a great example of that. You can drive the component from the production order using some transfer Kanbans that is pretty much a very mixed mode for a single order. This demand triggers the component to be pulled from a material warehouse 11 to a production location number 12. This information is set up in the first step of this flow, which is the production flow. That's the ones who defines the activities and locations. Now, in our next step is the Kanban rules. So the Kanban rules help us to define which is the Kanban type, replenishment type, the production activity flow, and the item. And since everything is configured within the system, we can estimate the production flow that creates all Kanban cards related to the raw materials that needs to be consumed in order to produce our finished good. Those items also could be withdrawn from different warehouses and different locations. So now let's take a look in Dynamics. I'm going to start with the production flow. So I have that in my favorites. However, if you would like to drive that from your module, so you can go ahead from your production control and the lean production flow. So right here, we have the option of production flow. That means that you will be able to have more than one production flow set up within your system. Here, let me just click on visualize to show you here all the whole production flow. So another way to think about of the production flow is as a mirror of your manufacturing process that initiate to place an order all the way shipping into the customer. This is just a simple scenario that starts with the transfer activity, which is the one that we are going to work on this scenario. So as you may notice, this is an activity type of transfer. The name of is replenishment speaker components. We define the unit of measure that in this case, I'm going to use pieces. And the function or the main role who is in charge of this activity, which is shipper. Also, here we can define the from and the destination warehouse and location. There are two additional setups here that help us to define if this activity is going to move materials on the picking and on the receive process, and also the cycle time and run time that helps you to define how long it's going to take to produce an item for a certain period of time. So as long as we have this first activity, now next, the production Kanban is consuming this material that has been drawn into the assembly area, which is the one that produces our finished good. Now next, to complete the production process, Dynamics will move a semi-finished item from work cell to work cell. And in our last activity, we will transfer the finished good and put into our sales warehouse location to be shipped into our customer. Now, let's move now into our Kanban rules. So from here, let me show you all the setup on the Kanban rule. As mentioned earlier, so here we will define the type as a withdraw, the replenishment strategy as in event, the activities, and all the activities that will pop up on this form will be type as transfer. So in this case, we are going to use the replenishment speaker component. Then also we'll have in the fast tab details to define the item and the effective date, expiration date, and some lead time if that applies. Within the quantity fast tab, this is one of the ones that we are going to use for fixed quantity Kanbans, but also we will have the ability to define minimum and maximum quantities that we're going to use that in our second scenario. Now within the Kanban cards, where we define the number sequences and we tell the system how is going to be the behavior when we print cards, the Kanban cards. So from here, we could set up that we are able to print Kanban cards when we create, plan, prepare, start, or receive job. Now here within the events, we define the behavior of this specific Kanban rule. For my scenario, I'm going to set up the bomb line event and the Kanban line event as an automatic process. Within the production flow, the system will inherit the production flow from the activity that I previously select, the status, and the receipt location that is going to move all the raw materials. Now we have a section of Kanban quantity calculation policies for fixed quantity Kanbans. And in our last section, we are going to see all Kanban cards that will be generated to the system. Now, here we have everything set up within the system. So now I'm going to go to my production order to process my first scenario. So here I have previously created this production order that is for 10 units. And as long as I create this production order, the system will show me all the BOM materials required to produce this item. That are going to generate automatically the Kanban as soon as I estimate this production. So let's go ahead to estimate this process. Now, as you may notice, the new status of my production order was changed to estimated. That means that if I'm going back into my Kanban rules, the Kanban cards were created, one per each raw material. So let's take a look at the details of this Kanban card. So now here at the beginning, we have all the details of my item, quantity, and due date. Now we have which is the replenishment strategy that I'm used for, the Kanban card number, and here in this section, we have the most important part, that automatically this creates a job type as transfer to move my materials. So now from here, When a new Kanban is created, the Kanban is automatically released to a wave in a warehouse 11. When the wave is processed, the work Kanban picking is generated, directing the warehouse worker to pick, in this case, the item M106 on location warehouse 11 and put into my location 12. At this moment, this Kanban now it's ready to be planned and complete. As Diego mentioned earlier, we have a specific board to see all my transfer jobs, which is called the Kanban board transfer jobs. Within this form, you will be able to trace and tracking, process and complete the job for replenishment. Now with this, I'm going to conclude the WITHDRAWAL scenario and point out to summarize some of the features and capabilities of WITHDRAWAL Kanbans. So the first one, the WITHDRAWAL Kanban in D365 is able to release a Kanban card for picking to warehouse that is managed with a flexible location storage. Next one, Dynamics 365 enables the user to complete the workflow raw material with a handheld device. Provide the user the status of wave and working the picking list in the section in the Kanban transfer board. And last but not the least, the feature to include the transfer activity into the picking process. That is mainly used for all the transfer that doesn't have too much space between the locations. Now with this, I'm going to move into my second scenario. So this scenario will generate a manufacturing Kanban directly from a sales order transaction. This type of Kanban is just where the components that are required vary by event and a high number of buyers are needed. This is pretty much a make-to-order Kanban. The manufacturing scenario starts when a customer places an order and directly from the sales order. The user is able to generate all the Kanban events, which creates the Kanban cards for you. On the shop floor, the production process starts to assemble the item in this first step, and it will replenish the quantity to the quality and control activity as semi-finished item, and finally transfer that finished item to our sales warehouse. The particular setup that we have for manufacturing is that within my production flow, we will have defined the work cells, as Diego mentioned earlier. This is the work cell who maps the resource group, the group of people, a machine, so on and so forth. Then the other difference within our next step in the Kanban rules is that you will be able to define multiple activities. That I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now, since everything is configured directly from your sales order, you will have an option to generate your Kanban jobs. So now let's go back into the 365. Now, let me just start going on my production flow to show you our manufacturing activities. So now, as you may notice, my activity type was update to process, and I have defined my work cell as at 1250. Now, in my second manufacturing activity, I have defined my different group of people or machine, which is my 1260. Something that I haven't mentioned before is that in my section down of this workflow, you will be able to trace and tracking what is happening within a particular activity. So in this case, they will show you all Kanban rules created to a particular activity, the picking activities, and the active Kanban jobs, the ones that are planned or not planned. So from here, you will be able to visualize what is happening in your shop floor. Now, let me just go back into the Kanban, the manufacturing Kanban rule. So here, well, we have different. the type now it's set up as a manufacturing. And now here you may notice that I able to set up a multiple activities option, which gives me all the possibilities on my workflow. What are going to be the last one? I'm going to set up the last one as the one that remove my finished good. And now here, you may notice that the system will map what we have in my production flow and establish that this Kanban rule will go from those through different activities in order to conclude the process for this rule. This behavior is going to help you in the case you would like to generate just one Kanban and move that Kanban to different stages. Instead of having one card per each activity, then in this scenario, you will be able to have just one card moving into different part of the process. Now, within the quantities, I'm going to define here my maximum quantity as 50. So we recommend to use this setup as a maximum sales order quantity for sales event Kanban rules that is used as a capable to promise. This setup will limit the impact that could be generated from erroneous orders or quantities that are exceptionally larger customer orders. Now, on my events, which is different, is that I'm going to enable the sales event as an automatic event. And from here, we are going to see all of our new Kanban cards that will generate from our sales order. So now, let me just go into my sales order. So for that, I'm going to drive from my accounts receivable module, all sales order. And I have already an order prepared for this scenario. So this order, I'm going to ship into my customer the item L0001, which is a mid-range speaker, and the quantity that I require is 140, right? So as long as everything here is set up and I define which is my customer, then the user will be able to generate this Kanban event process. So let me just click on here. And then here, the system is going to tell me that 3 new Kanban events were created. So let me just go back into my rule. I'm going to refresh. So now here you may notice that I have new Kanbans here on my Kanban cards. And the reason why I have 3 is just because the system breaking down my total quantity based on the maximum quantity that I define on the rule. Now, let's take a look which is the difference of this Kanban card. Now here in the details and reference, we have pretty much the same information as we previously see in our WITHDRAWAL one. But now here on the jobs, I have 3 different processes, 1 per each activity. I have 2 as a type of process, and the last one, which is going to be type of transfer. Now, let me show you how it looks like the Kanban card and the information that provides in the case you have multiple activities. So here, you may notice that the Kanban card is going to show you all the activities that have related to my job. So from this, the worker will be able to transfer this card between all the stages. And then here they tell us which is the last stage of this, or which is the last location, which is going to be our final movement of this card, my customer. And on this section, you will be able to put some instructions if that helps in any way the worker to complete their work. Okay. So now here, as soon as the Kanban is created, you will be able to trace and tracking all manufacturing Kanbans in the schedule board, which is the ones that Diego shows us before. So let me just go back into my schedule board. So here you will be able not only to trace and tracking, but also to complete and conclude each job. So this is the final step of this demonstration. So to recap the manufacturing, here I would like to point out some key capabilities and functionality of manufacturing. So first one is that the Kanban schedule can be triggered automatically if you set up the automatic planning quantity parameter on the Kanban rule. Each Kanban job is planned immediately when it's created. Dynamics allows you to map your business process into the option called production flow and also handle multiple versions that helps you to have testing of which is the new activities that you would like to include into your production flow. MRP, it's integrated with the Kanban feature to cover schedule activities through the lean manufacturing process. And the last one, the full barcode scanning integration is enabled through all manufacturing process. So now I want to bring Esteban to provide you the conclusions of this webinar.
Thank you, Carolina. Now, for the conclusion of this webinar, we'll jump out the first one. Dynamics 365 supply chain management basically provides a flexible framework where both lean manufacturing and traditional manufacturing can be applied. We can see this on how the system used master planning to reconcile and manage a process where mixture of conventional production orders and Kanban is used. Second one, with this integration with other models, lean manufacturing dynamics delivers a very complete package regarding production control where you can basically take a part on every part of the process, also in process of inventory, in the process of scheduling, the process of the Kanban creation. You have very much a complete control about how those are carried out. The third one, and last, the dashboard and KPIs that Dynamics 365 offers enables a more visual, understandable way to understand and interact with certain information within the production process, as you already saw with the demonstration that my colleagues did with the dashboards. It gives a very understandable way of understanding certain information and to handle that information within the system. Now I will leave you with our marketing team to give you the final information.
Okay, so we came to the end of our webinar. Thank you all for attending. We already answered a few questions in the Q&A section, the chat. If any of you would like to get to know more about Microsoft Dynamics 365 supply chain management or have any other additional questions, you can write to the email that appears on the screen and we will gladly schedule a call. Thank you all and have a great week.